Now, Roy, to the minor industries that used to be major industries before the finance industry took over, agriculture and horticulture. How do you see the future of this industry in the island?
I think it has got a future, and although Mike said, you know, what did you say, 4 acres to a cow, it's not so much can we squeeze more cows in, for example, and as you know much better than I, we could put them in sheds all year if we were really desperate to build on green fields. It's not that, it's that it allows the island, okay, it's got a much more industrial side to it now, farming, but it allows the island to keep a very pleasant countryside. I'm not saying we should just keep it just for the sake of it, but that's a very important byproduct of agriculture. And I have to say, I am very impressed as I go around. It's a diminishing group of people at the entrepreneurial skills, the increasing environmentally conscious approach. People sometimes disparage farmers about this. I'm very impressed at the way farmers are you know, moving up to the plate in order to deal with these issues. They're not a big group at the moment, but in my mind they're a vital group, and I find them, despite the way they're sometimes caricatured, I find them a very innovative, energetic group of people in the main, actually. They're not, you know, Fred and a cow type operators. I think it's a very important industry, even if at the end of the day it's financial contribution to the island is obviously nowhere what it used to be.
Graham was a farmer, so I feel sure he wants to speak to you on this, but just on the idea of they've got a milking herd in the island of 3,000 cows, that sort of number of cows is going into one shed in other places. That's the reality of dairy farming in other places. To produce milk at a price that the customer will pay, that's the sort of thing that's happening. One shed with 3,000 milkers in it.
Well, I think they've looked at that, but I think Britain's biggest dairy farm has been in Lincolnshire. They were going to build one, weren't they? And I think for the moment it's been knocked back because of local opposition and because of well, animal welfare opposition, I suppose. That, you know, the view being it can't be good for cows to be, you know.
But the idea of even the herd of 100, that's not economic in many places now.
Well, the irony is, I understand some of the big Jersey herds are way up there with the big EU herds. You know, we've got some of the biggest herds in the European Union. So I think the Jersey people will say, I know they don't like the outcome of it, a lot of them, which is of course what they conceive to be the unnecessarily high price of milk. But I think they will say, if there is a trade-off between retaining a fairly traditional dairy industry and its contribution to the countryside, we're prepared for that trade-off. You know, we don't just want to sort of put all the cows in one big shed and hope for cheaper milk.
Can I ask you, Graham, you're a farmer, I know it's in your blood. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we've got to move with the times. Being a farmer in Jersey is no longer a way of life, it's purely a business. Every decision you make is based on business. And it was interesting just now when Roy said that to retain the countryside looking as it is. Well, obviously there's a price to somebody. To retain everything looking nice as it is, green and so forth and so on, there's a price to pay. What financial assistance is the industry getting at the moment?
It's getting a fair amount of assistance. It's not getting, I mean, there's been this never-ending debate amongst the farmers. They allege they were promised European Union levels of subsidy, and that the states never delivered on that promise. They're quite right, probably, but although it's very hard to do the maths of that, I've found. But they do get it, but of course a lot of it is now conditional. It has what we call conditionality. It's linked to environmental improvement, for example. It's not linked to productivity improvement, and I'm not sure every farmer likes it that way. But yes, there is money available for setting up new enterprises in agriculture. Everyone's hoping there's some new, maybe young person out there, some non-farmer at the moment, but someone who's come into farming, who's got an idea that will take off. And I think, although I'm well aware that some of the traditional farmers are quite sceptical of that and feel we're throwing money at certain hobby farmers, my view is you've got to do some of that, because if somebody is prepared to put their neck on the block, develop new ideas, follow new paths in agriculture. I think, yes, we've got to support them.
Yeah.
I'm coming up to my time limit on my little camera.
I'm not aware that there are any hobby farmers left, Roy. There's no room for hobby farmers. It's purely a business, and I took the trouble this morning to contact a prominent professional farmer who knows exactly what's going on. And from what I could gather, there was only two forms of financial assistance to the industry. One is something called area payments, which I believe is about £30 per vergee. Now, from recollection, I think there's something in the region of about 17,000 vergees. So if you multiply 30 by 17,000, that'll give you an idea of what that costs the state. Plus, there's been given out grants up to £200,000. This particular person, who never asks anybody to pay his bills and never has done, feels that both those are a total waste of time, total waste of taxpayers' money, in as much as that all it's doing is creating people to compete amongst themselves locally, and is actually destructive. So as far as he is concerned, and this man knows what he's talking about, that all that money would be better put to other things, but not being used as it is at the moment. So you might find that an interesting point of view. Just moving on to tourism now, do you think this industry is thriving or dying?
Struggling.
Struggling.
But again, of course, who knows? I mean, if for example, there's a world shortage of oil, if there's a cutback on air travel, the whole decade or so we've had of cheap air travel may start coming to an end, and Jersey might, on that basis, become popular. I admit it will be very difficult to reinstitute the accommodation sector, obviously, to the numbers. I certainly, reading the tea leaves as they are at present, I don't think we're going to revert to the days of mass tourism, but I think we'll certainly have a core tourism industry.
I'm going to have to draw a line there. No more.